Welcome to NAMI Live, your mental health community. I'm Susan Racher, volunteer board chair of NAMI Miami-Dade, our local affiliate serving the Keys and Miami-Dade of the largest mental health peer-to-peer organization in the United States. Our goal with these programs is to bring you vital information, resources, and to remove stigma from difficult conversations. In that line, I would like to share two wonderful pieces of news with you. First, NAMI Miami-Dade has been nominated as one of 3 finalists for the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce Health Heroes Award for 2023. I share that with you because it's been our goal to end the silence on mental health for quite some time. And we are grateful to the Chamber and to the business community of Miami for acknowledging of all the healthcare organizations in the county that mental health matters. The second piece of news is that our walk on May 20th, 2023 at Lone Depot Park, home of the Miami Marlins, has been an absolute sellout success so far, and it's not too late to sign up. We'll be talking a little more about the walk later on in this program. Today, we are bringing you very important and vital information, answering questions that we hear all the time from families. Families who are living with a loved one with a disability. How do I care for that loved one when I am no longer able to support them? This is a topic that is scary and intimidating to a lot of families, keeps people up at night, and sometimes is even taboo. Today, we'll give you resources, information, and tools so that you can sleep at night knowing that you have a wonderful plan to take care of your loved one living with a disability. We have 2 amazing guests today. Our first guest is Stephania Conti, representing Able United, an amazing organization that takes advantage of a tax law that allows families to prepare and save for the needs of their loved ones. Steph is a passionate and dedicated supporter of the disability community, mother of 2, and we welcome you to our show and thank you for being here to talk about this subject that I actually didn't know about until you and I met. And Kate Edelson, who has been on our program many times, is our walk manager for the 2023 Walk for Mental Health Awareness that I mentioned. Kate is also a trainer and a presenter in our signature program for youth in middle, high school, and colleges called Ending the Silence. Kate, welcome back. It's always good to be with you. I'd like to start off by just asking what brought you to this work, how you became involved with both the disability community and Able United, starting with you, Steph.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Susan, Kate, thank you so much for having me on the show today. I'm so happy to be here. So as you mentioned, I am a spokesperson for Able United, and I've been with them for about 3 years now. And it was I'm very passionate about this community, and as I was learning about the disability community and all the services and programs that are available and working with our community partners and advocacy organizations, I started to see some alignment with my personal life. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned, I have 2 kids. My son Jacob is 3.5. And my daughter Elisa is 10 months old, so very little kids.
Delicious.
Yes. But when my son was around 1 year old, we started to notice some, delays in his walking and mobility. So, of course, we started down that road of investigating what was causing it, what we could do. And we're still, very much in the beginning of this journey and understanding his prognosis and his diagnosis. But I feel so fortunate that I have that baseline foundation and knowledge of what is available to him and the disability community, because It really is amazing how much is out there. It's just a matter of knowing about them and taking advantage.
Very important, and that's really the North Star of this program, is knowing what resources are there and making them accessible to the community. And Kate, your experience goes way back, actually before NAMI Miami.
Absolutely. So for me, it started with my own personal experience at a very young age. I would say around middle school, I started hearing more and more from a lot of my peers that we weren't doing so well. You know, we were experiencing self-harm. A lot of the time, there were a lot of problems popping up that no one seemed to understand how to address, and there just wasn't a lot of conversation about it at all. So we regularly heard about people with drug problems, and we had a lot of speakers coming to our school and addressing these kinds of issues, but not so much when it came to mental health, which seemed to be a recurring theme for me, ranging from having experience watching my friends deal with bipolar, schizoaffective in one case, and then anxiety and depression, and then in my case, both of those and self-harm. So starting at a very young age, I noticed that there was something quite wrong that was happening and that it wasn't getting addressed. So I went to a small college in Connecticut, and when I was there, which was very far away from home here in South Florida, I found the same situation over and over again. I actually had to hospitalize my best friend who had undiagnosed bipolar at the time, and that's sort of how she found out. And because this was a reoccurring thing for me, I really wanted to do something about it, which is how I discovered NAMI on the national level. I volunteered at their helpline for almost a full year. And I talked to people all over the country who were experiencing the same things that I was experiencing, that uncertainty of, you know, there's clearly a problem, but we don't have the language to talk about it. We don't know what exactly is happening, and we're looking for resources. And so that experience led me, when I came back home, to find NAMI here and get involved in the youth program, where I was able to have the resources and education to educate others about those things that I had been experiencing when I was their age, and then have that conversation with them where they can open up to us and be like, well, actually, we're experiencing this as well, and then point them into the right hands and the necessary resources. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm very excited to be doing the work that we're doing today.
And it's been a wonderful segue for you in terms of educating youth and their families through ending the silence. But in order to end the silence, we have to normalize the conversation. And that's why the walk is so important. That's why film festivals and conferences and programs like this are so important to normalize the conversation. And I'd like to also normalize the resources and options open to families who are living with loved ones with disabilities. Before I do that, I'd like to share with the audience the incidence of disability in Florida, how significant this information is. According to the Florida Department of Health, there are 4.6 million people living with a disability in Florida. It's 1 in 3 adults. In our schools, statewide, there are 414,000 students living with a disability, or 14% of the 2.9 million pre-K to grade 12 students in the state. The incidence of disability in Miami-Dade is actually higher than the national average. And Miami, and I didn't know this until we worked together and looked into it, Miami is the second city in the country in terms of percentage of people living with a disability. And that's very, so this is important. This affects all of us. It affects our families, it affects our friends, it affects our employees, it affects our neighbors. I just want to share a couple more statistics, and then we can dig into the content. So NAMI's focus is on mental health, the mental health segment of the disability population. Another fact that I didn't realize is that people living with other disabilities, vision, mobility, hearing, and other disabilities, have 4 times greater levels of depression than the general population. So the comorbidity between a disability and a mental health condition is significant. And that is something I'm so grateful to you for having learned, because this is an area that we at NAMI need to and plan to focus. So let's start by sharing what is ABLE, Achieving a Better Life Experience. Isn't that what NAMI's about? Isn't that what ABLE United's about? Isn't that what we as parents are about?
Right,
So what is
absolutely.
the ABLE law, and how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love the name Achieving a Better Life Experience because, like you said, that's really the goal of our organization and the goal for parents too, you know. And I love to share the story that the ABLE Act actually started with a group of parents. Here in Florida, they were from Orlando and Jacksonville area, and they were sitting around a table talking about saving for their children's future. And they were looking for a way to save money for their children with disabilities, just like their children without disabilities. So for so long, individuals that receive benefits like Medicaid and Social Security, they're restricted to an asset limit of $2,000. That's the total amount that they can have before it impacts their eligibility for the benefits that they need every day. So it's crazy. $2,000 can't get you anywhere these days. So these group of parents advocated for years on end in order to change that. And with that, we got the Achieving a Better Life Experience legislation. It was federally passed in 2014. And in 2016, Florida enacted its legislation and created the program ABLE United. And a lot of people don't know that it's actually housed under the Florida Prepaid College Board. So, you know, a lot of parents turn to that organization to save for higher education expenses. They've been around for over 30 years in Florida, and now they're helping individuals in the disability community to become savers and investors for the first time. Because really before this, there wasn't an option for them.
Wow.
So we've been going on for, like I said, since 2016. We have over 10,000 account holders registered for an ABLE United account, but still there's so much education that needs to be done to continue to let Floridians know that this exists and that they are able to save, because it's a lot of fear that we have to, you know, overcome. They've been told for so long that they cannot have money, but now there is an option. So we just have to get that message out there.
I think we also need to educate the attorneys, because I recall that in our creating our estate documents and other documents, we created a special needs trust,
Yeah.
but we're not aware
Yeah, we
of
are
the ABLE
working.
option again until we met. And I just love bringing new information to the community because it's really important.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, we've been working diligently with the Florida Bar, the Florida Attorney for Elder Law. That's the section that manages, you know, the disability community and the elder affairs. So we have a great relationship with them and educating attorneys, like you said, that are working with families to set up the future planning to make sure that an ABLE account is part of their future plan.
And why is it important to make sure that there's compliance with Medicaid?
Right. So as I mentioned, they are limited to that asset restriction of $2,000. So if they have $2,001 in their account, then their benefits can get impacted. So you know, Medicaid and Social Security, they monitor that diligently, and a lot of people have also, you know, are now afraid of having money more than $2,000. So having this as an option has been a game changer for this community.
Sure. And an individual with a disability that prevents them from working full-time and supporting themselves is an individual that will be reliant on Medicaid and Social Security.
Right, exactly.
So by extending their ability to have savings to augment that are allowable,
right,
it provides them with the quality of life that they need.
Exactly. And what's even great is these accounts, they kind of take it a step further in that the money doesn't necessarily have to be medically, how you spend the money doesn't have to be medically necessary. It's about achieving a better life experience. So we have what we call our qualified disability expenses and how you can spend money in your ABLE account. And that can be for doctor's appointments, but it can also be for transportation, groceries, you know, basic living expenses, and it can also be used as a long-term savings account. So really, it's very flexible, and it's really just meant to improve the quality of life of that individual, whatever they need.
So tell us about Able United. We get so many calls at NAMI from families who ask the question, you know, I have a sibling, I have a daughter, I have a son. They're doing okay now, but I'm 75 years old. I'm 80 years old. What do I do? Who's
Right.
going to take care of them? How will they have the resources? So tell us a little about Able United, how you work with families, and how you counsel them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's definitely part of the education piece is getting families to understand the importance of future planning. Because it is, like you said, a scary subject, taboo. A lot of people don't want to talk about it. But having an ABLE account as part of your financial plan. So, it works great with a special needs trust and all those other sorts of things. It's so important to set that child up for success in the future or, for your loved one, because that money is in their name. They own that account. And, God forbid, when the caregiver passes away, they have that money in their name and no one can touch it. No one can take it from them. So it's all about creating greater financial independence for an individual.
And at Able United, you also have investment strategies.
Yeah.
And one of the, so folks often, are also intimidated by investments.
Right.
The market goes up, the market goes down. We hear, the 24-hour news cycle.
Right.
The market's red, the market's green. How do you coach and counsel and take care of that additional huge barrier to this conversation,
Right.
where I don't know how to invest, I'm not financially literate, it's scary.
Yeah, we've definitely heard all of that and more. And really, we try to make it as simple as possible without exactly providing financial advice, because we're not financial advisors. We just want to, educate as many people on all the options available. So our website is a great resource for reading more about the investment options and seeing what works for a family. We also have a lot of great webinars saved on our YouTube page, where we've talked with financial advisors and really dug deep into what works for the community at what point. So that would be a great place to turn to. But again, the flexibility of these accounts is you can choose what kind of investment options, or you can treat it as just a savings account. So we have an FDIC insured option as well. So there's a lot of flexibility with the account. It shouldn't be a barrier for somebody into opening an account.
And this is a tax-free, it's sheltered from taxes, correct?
Yeah, so it's a 529A account. So like I mentioned before, it's managed under Florida Prepaid, and they have their 529 accounts as well. So when the law passed, it created 529A for ABLE. Again, it kind of takes it a step further, where
that's
it
great.
doesn't just
Yeah.
have to be for education expenses. It can be for housing, transportation, food, medical expenses. So
This is especially important for the mental health community, because the SSI payments for mental illness are less than they are for other disabilities. And so one of the issues that we are challenged with in Miami-Dade is that the ALFs will set their rentals in line with their expectations of the income from SSI. And folks with mental health conditions don't get that same income level. And it's somewhat complex, and I'm not an expert in it, but I know this is an advocacy issue. And so all the more important for families to stash away some protected funds to help their loved ones afford the kind of roof over their heads that they absolutely need.
Yeah.
And the funds, when they're dispensed, are not counted towards Medicaid or SSI,
Right, exactly.
and they're not taxed.
Right.
So that is a huge, huge windfall in a positive way to help defray what could be a very expensive lifetime financial burden.
Absolutely.
So there are many ways to connect with you. One is to come to the walk, which Kate will talk about in a moment. Able is one of our walk supporters. We'll have a table and a team, and we'll have all their information. And please share with our viewers how else to connect with Able.
Yeah, please go to our website, ableunited.com. Like I mentioned, we also have a great YouTube page with lots of recorded webinars and resources available, and we're also on social media. So we try to get as much information out there as possible.
Excellent. And are there minimums? Could people save whatever they're able to save?
Right. So it's $25 to get the account started, but that is your money into your account, and I think it's a $5 minimum contribution. But again, we try to just tell people to save as much as you can and when you can. Even a little bit every $5 a month can go a long way in the long run.
So I'm gonna put my finance hat on a little bit and reiterate and parrot that, because if a family is concerned about a young child, putting away a little amount of money at a reasonable rate of return, compounded over 20, 30 years, is phenomenal in terms of being able to have funds to support that person. And the power of compounding is one of the great miracles of life,
Yeah.
of financial life. And so that's a very important message. So ableunited.com.
Com.
And you could also access Able United by coming to the NAMIMiami.org page, where Able United is proudly listed as one of our partners. So Kate, thank you for being here today. Give us an update on the walk and why it's so important for stigma busting and for connection to resources, and how you view those two areas.
Absolutely. So already the walk has started to do its job, because I think you and I both learned a lot today about Able United and the
Yes.
kind of resources that are available out there, because this is one of the reasons that a walk is so important. And speaking from a personal level, in my family, we have someone who has a serious mental health condition, who has been dependent on a caregiver her entire life.
Mhm.
And coming from an immigrant background, the family came to the United States, and they knew from a very young age that this was going to be the case for the rest of her life, that they would have to provide. And so she lives with a disability and was with her family for most of her life. And then, as it happens, the caretaker got older and eventually did pass away. And so this threw the family into disarray. It put a lot of anxiety and stress on all of us, especially the family members who sort of rose up to be like, okay, how are we going to make sure that this person does have a comfortable way to live, that they aren't completely thrown off by the uncertainty of having lost their main caretaker, and having to be dependent on other people. How do we work with that? And so having seen that firsthand, and seeing that, especially knowing that someone who is living with a disability can often experience depression to that heightened, 4 times amount more than what the
Right.
regular person can be experiencing, on top of having already a pretty serious mental health condition, it's a lot of pressure on everyone. It's a lot of
Right.
pressure on the individual, and it's a lot of pressure on the caretakers, who are oftentimes new to doing this and who don't know the resources available. So it was very comforting for me to learn that something like this is here, and that we are able to put the spotlight on this, because again, coming from a personal place, I've watched my family struggle with this. And here in Miami-Dade, and in South Florida, we had talked about the high incidence of people living with disabilities. So we really need resources like this. So the Walk for Mental Health Awareness is specifically for this purpose, to put a spotlight on these important resources in one place where people can gather and know that they can find that information there. So the walk is on May 20th, as we mentioned, home of the Miami Marlins, Lone Depot Park. So you can expect Billy the Marlin to be in attendance as well, as our fabulous sponsors and amazing community partners, who will all be there sharing some of the information that we've talked about today, including other amazing mental health organizations, Retreat Behavioral Health. We also have Nicholas Children's Hospital, a lot of really key South Florida partners and community organizations are going to be in attendance, sharing this information and coming together to celebrate the fact that we're in an era where we talk about this, where we're sharing this information, where we're not throwing things under the rug anymore. And we haven't completely removed the stigma. It's still something that's very present, that we're working on. And But not only am I seeing in my own family that we're having very open dialogues, but in those calls that you talked about, Susan, people are calling and
Right.
they're sharing their story. They're saying, I'm in this situation and I need to plan for my loved one's future and I need to talk about it and I need support and guidance. So that is really the key role of the walk, is to bring access to people who are looking for help and show people that it's okay to talk about it, and that there are these amazing organizations that are available that are willing to be that helping hand, which is of course in line with NAMI's mission of sharing resources with everybody and providing free programming, of course, through our support groups, our helpline, and our education programs. So
Well, I recall last year's walk was incredible because it was a combination of celebration of mental health, celebration of open conversation, and a health fair. I mean, you literally could go from booth to booth, interact with the practitioners, with the clinicians, with the representatives and the social workers and the providers, exchange phone numbers, realize that there isn't a challenge to access when you know where to make that phone call, when you have somebody's personal card, when you have their information. It's so critical. We are a community of very rich resources and very rich capabilities. However, even in this social media, website, technology age, most people don't know where to find them. So you can find them on May 20th. And I believe there's a QR code on your screen above Kate to get more information and also to connect with NAMI Miami and its resources, including its partners like Able United. So we have a couple minutes left. I wanted to give you an opportunity for some takeaways for the folks watching this program, and final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will share a couple of key things. So for ABLE accounts, you have to have a qualifying disability, and mental illness, of course, is one, and it actually counts for about 10% of our account holders. So it's sizable, but definitely still an opportunity for us to educate this community even more. And recent legislation actually passed. It's called the ABLE Age Adjustment. So right now, you have to have a diagnosis prior to the age 26 in order to open an account. And that is going to change in the year 2026. In a couple of years from now, the age will be 46. A diagnosis
Oh,
prior
that's
to the age 40.
important.
Yes, so that definitely
Wow.
opens us up to so many more people, especially mental health, that is diagnosed later in life.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, so we're very excited that is going to be starting in 2026.
That is really critical because the onset of mental illness
Right.
is usually between 18 and 30.
Yeah,
So if a young adult at age 29
exactly.
is diagnosed with schizophrenia under the current law, they would
They
not
just
qualify.
Yeah, they just missed the diagnosis age, but
Well,
that is going to be
That is
changing
really
soon.
important. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is there any magic to 40, or was that just the number that was?
That was the number that the legislation chose. I'm not sure the reasoning behind it, but that's the number, and we're happy for it because
Yes.
that does increase it by so many more people.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. That's it, 2026. Okay, so we will make sure we get the word out
Yeah.
between now and then. Kate,
I'm just so happy that we have this opportunity, that Steph, you were able to join us today, and that we're working with such amazing partners. Like I said, I've had a lot of personal experience with this. I've watched my own family go through a lot of struggles, my peers, and it's such a beautiful time to be able to come together. So I hope that everyone will join us on May 20th. For those of you who haven't already registered, it's namiwalks.org/Miami. We're going to have a really amazing time. Registration on walk day is at 8 a.m. And so we're going to be on the west side of the beautiful plaza, and there's going to be lots of amazing sponsors and community partners who are going to be sharing this information. And so I hope to see you all there, and I thank you so much for having me today, Susan.
thank you for being here, for educating us. I have a couple of final thoughts as well. Please connect with NAMIMiami.org. We have suicide prevention programs going on 4 or 5 times a month on Zoom. We have free, everything we do is free, support groups, education classes, a lot of information, a lot of connection to resources. If you need help, call us, 305-665-2540. We are a warm line, answered in English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, and we'll connect you to the help that you need. There's no reason to be ashamed. You're not alone. Connect with us. I'd like to thank you again for being here, and I'd like to thank the Department of Children and Families and Thriving Mind for its support of NAMI Miami and our programs. I look forward to seeing you in our next program, and do